Good morning. This is the time and place for the Planning Hearing Officer meeting of May 30th, 2012. My name is Roger Kiesel, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have one case today, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panel located directly behind me. There is, as I said before, one variance on the agenda today. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.43 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if four required findings are present. The first one is that the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. The second, that there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zone or neighborhood. The third, that the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And then finally, that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. If the findings presented in the application and at the meeting at the hearing meets the criteria just described, then the hearing officer can approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Public notice. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices which were mailed to property owners and occupants located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read the description of the application request. Second, I'll read the reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. Third, the case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support or opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating both name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Finally, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to testimony given by preceding speakers with a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will then be closed and the case taken under submission. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in a form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at the hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Appeals. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62, the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from Building and Safety Section, Permit Services Center, located on the same floor of this building. Speaker cards. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speakers' forms which have been provided by the front door and submit it to our assistant. Just as a reminder, the official proceedings of the Planning Hearing Officer hearing are recorded on tape as part of the public record. Go on to the case. One case today, it's case PVAR 2011-017. The applicant is Domus Design. The address is 632 North Louise Avenue. And the project description, the application is for a setback variance to construct 2 dwelling units with less than the required interior setbacks for each of the dwelling units. Comments from other departments. Okay, it looks like GWP Water, they're just their standard comments. Standard comments from GWP Electrical Engineering. Community Services and Parks. It's a reminder that this project is subject to appropriate provisions of the Public Use Facilities Development Impact Fee Ordinance, which requires that fees be paid to offset impacts on parks, recreation, and library facilities. Maintenance Services states that the existing street tree is healthy and structurally sound and should be preserved and protected in place during the course of construction of the dwelling units. Public Works Engineering just has standard comments. Building and Safety has standard comments. And that was it. All right, now I'd like to call up Mr. Chris Baxter, the case planner on the project, to do a presentation.
Yes, Mr. Kiesel. Very briefly, background on the property. The property, in fact, you can look on the screens up here and you can get a nice overview, as well as the exhibits that we have on our panel boards behind you, sir. The project is a vacant lot. The project site is a vacant lot on Louise. It's immediately adjacent to the freeway, as you can see, to the north, and then to the east, which is at the bottom of the screen, and to the south, there are multifamily apartment buildings. This was a lot that was created back in 1920. It was 50 feet at the time in width. And as a result of the freeway going through in the 1960s, part of the property was obtained for the freeway right-of-way. So the property now at the street side is 34 feet, and the back side next to the bottom of the screen is 32.5 feet. That's the east end. Now, the applicant has made arguments in defense of these four findings, stating that they should be allowed to put a duplex or 2 units on this property based on the reduced width, and there is a 10-foot electrical underground easement on the right side of the screen, which is the north side of the property. And so based on these restrictions, it forces the development of 2 relatively modest size units to be forced out of the normal area that they could be in, located in on that site, which is already reduced in width because of the freeway. So this is a remnant property. So that's a hardship for that type of development. They're also saying the property is unique in that within this neighborhood, there aren't any other remnant properties of this size that are vacant. Other remnant properties or smaller properties that are located within 500 feet of this site are already developed with units, non-conforming as it is right now, but there are older units that are built there. Or, as if you look in the bottom part of the photograph of that overhead screen, that larger building also includes the remnant from the parcel next to the freeway. So it actually includes 2 separate properties that builds over the whole thing. In this case, that didn't happen. So that also makes this property a bit unique.
How about the vacant property just on the top of the screen?
Now, the vacant property on the top is was probably, I believe it's 50 feet wide, so except that there is also a small portion of it next to the street that is not it's actually, I believe it's not part of that property, but it gives a more accurate feel of what could have been this property's size if it had not been cut up and used for the public right-of-way purposes. So you can see this particular property, for instance, going on to the next finding, which ties into the visual concept there is, they could have, the property even now could have allowed 4 units on it, technically, by code. But trying to get something of that size on there, because it's an R1250 zone divided into that square footage, and you can come up with 4 units, but as we know, that's practically impossible to build in that type of, with those reduced dimensions. So the property at the north, you could see, you could actually develop it more akin to its neighboring properties, so there would be a sort of an equity issue involved in terms of the development to its fullest potential. So the applicant is saying there's not a detriment to the public welfare here because we're not trying to put in 4 units, we're only trying to put in 2 units, which in this multifamily zone of the R1250 is our highest density residential zone. And finally, they say that they feel that even with the deviation to the code, that they are going to be consistent with many elements of the general plan, including the land use element, because they're doing less units than what the code allows, the circulation element, because this is an urban collector street, which is a street that allows for higher traffic volumes to disperse to the smaller streets within the city, and the housing element, because it provides another opportunity, a housing opportunity for people in the community. And it is close to downtown, so there's also public transportation opportunities, which is not always realistic in many cases, but this is only a couple of blocks from the downtown area where there are some major bus lines going up and down the street. So the staff concurs with the applicant based on those arguments, the 4 arguments that we feel that there is a hardship on this land, partially because of its reduced width and some land use restrictions. And we also agree with them about the uniqueness of the property, that it won't be a hardship, that it will not be a public detriment to the community, and that it is in substantial conformance with the general plan. And we recommend that the setback variances be approved as requested.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Nazarian, would you like to speak? You have 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, officer and the staff. My name is Garo Nazarian with Domus Design, 109 East Harvard, Suite 306 in Glendale. As the project, it has been represented by the Chris Baxter. No, subject property is zoned 1250, and it has been mentioned that the code-wise, with the calculation, we can build 4-unit dwellings here. But this property, it has been penalized twice, and that is the hardship or the uniqueness of this property. One, it's that because of the public right-of-way, they took part of the property, and then on the north parallel to the north property line, there is a 10-feet electrical easement, which is running a high-voltage electrical line underground.
Can you come up here and show me where that is? Thanks.
This is the Lewis Street. Mm-hmm. This is the freeway. The north side, 10 feet wide easement running parallel to the freeway all the way to the back. And because originally we started this project with 3-unit apartment building with subterranean garages. Originally, I did check for the easement. It didn't show any easement. But later on, when I submitted the plans, after the design review board approval for that project, I submitted the plans for the building permit. In that time, the electrical department, the power department told me that there is an easement. And after having a discussion with the power department, we came to this solution because this area it's paved fully. They are asking to keep that 10-foot easement, open, to have access. And in the rear side only, they agreed to keep minimum 7-foot, open space for their access to the line and working there. So there is an easement all the way, in the north side.
But the rear unit has,
7 feet.
is that what the easement is, or is that the?
Yeah, easement, it goes all the way back 10 feet. But
Okay.
by having meetings with the power department, they find out, or they agree, in the rear, they don't need 10 feet,
So-
7 feet is good enough.
So part of the rear unit will be on the easement?
Yes. But actually, the easement, because the power line is running maybe around 4 feet, 5 feet from the property line. And there is another section that it says no structure, no excavation, 5 feet from the line too. That it gives me 10 feet. But here, because I have landscaping, so they can go with 7 feet setback. That is a point that we agreed already with the power department.
Okay.
And this hardship, this easement or part of the land, it has been dedicated for the public right of way. It gives me the uniqueness of this property. And this property, it's a vacant lot sitting there for a long period of time. And this is a time to construct this property, which is right now, it's not nice visually too. It's fenced out, the chain link in the front. So that is a good opportunity to build these 2 units here. The front property line, it's at 34 feet, while the rear width of the property is 32 feet. Furthermore, there is an underground 10-foot easement of electrical purposes along the north property line. There are unique and exceptional circumstances within the entire neighborhood. You can see this situation in the neighborhood. Finding number 3, C. The proposed use is inconsistent with the general plan and the developed and future development possibilities. While the property would be thoroughly allow for a 4-unit new construction or proposed only 2-unit development. This is certainly compatible with the zoning development of the area and will not be detrimental to the public welfare. The granting the variance requested is only for a small portion, is not the entire length of the setbacks. We have 2 detached units in the front, one in the front, one in the back. The front unit has the, request the variance for the first floor where the garage is located.
Actually, when you're done with what you're saying, I'd like you to come up and just spell out, okay, where, are you done? Okay, or that,
I'm reading it.
okay, that's fine.
The variance request this is the front unit and the second unit.
Yep.
On the front unit, where I have a 10-foot easement, or the driveway now I'm using as a driveway, and a minimum 20 by 22 car garage, that it leaves me for the garage side, that is the garage wall, only 2 feet 5 inch setback, which is the minimum of the required setback. So one item is just the garage portion of the front unit on the ground floor.
Okay. And can you reduce the size of the driveway or the garage anymore?
No. That is the minimum.
They're at the minimum width.
The minimum width.
Okay.
And on the second floor of this unit, again, the south side of this unit, which is this portion, where the 5 feet minimum in the ground, we are asking a variance, and the average of the 5 feet 10 inches. On the second floor, the north side of the property, which a minimum 8 feet, average 11 feet is required, we provide the 8 feet minimum. And for this averaging, which is 11 feet average, it's required, we propose 9 feet 11 inches for the second floor of this unit. For the back unit,
Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Before you go to the back unit, what was the setback
for the second floor?
For the second floor, the south side?
The side south, the minimum 8 feet is provided.
Which
8
you
feet.
have.
I have. The average 11 feet is required.
Okay.
We are providing 9 feet 11 inches.
Okay, and that's the south side.
This one.
Okay.
That is the 9 feet. The averaging.
Right.
It's 9 feet 11 instead of the 11 feet.
Okay.
The north side now, sir. Ask him about, Mr. Nazarian, talk about the north side of that unit.
No, actually, I was concerned about the south side.
Because he didn't go through the north side of the second floor.
Oh,
Yeah, he thought he did, but he actually was reciting to he was actually talking
sorry.
about the south side.
oh, okay.
This is the side south.
Yes.
And the north side, where
Okay.
8 feet minimum and 11 feet average is required.
Yep.
The minimum, it's 10 feet instead of the 8 feet.
So you comply with that?
I comply with that on the ground floor.
Right.
On the second floor, where 11 feet is required, we are proposing 10 feet 10 inches,
Okay.
2 inch shorter than the average required.
You can't bump something?
If you check my floor plans, the size of the rooms are so minimal that even 2 inch cutting from the rooms, it will, it's a hardship. The room, it won't be anymore just minimum standard acceptable in the market.
Okay.
So I am sure the 2 inch short on the north side averaging.
Okay. Actually, this is this. Which,
First floor.
This is the second floor.
Right.
This is this.
okay. Oh, there's something,
No, this stairway, which it's roofed, you can see on the elevations.
Okay.
It's
Got it.
set back, it's.
okay,
Okay?
I got that, yeah.
And the rear unit, where on the south side, which is again this side, I comply with the rear unit. The first floor, I comply with the requirements. On the side, where the minimum 8 feet and average of 11 feet is required, the minimum is 8 feet 11 inches, 11 inch more than the
So you
minimum.
comply there.
I comply there. The second floor, where 11 feet is required for averaging,
Yep.
I have 10 feet 7 inches.
Okay. And you
So-
can't
No,
bump
really,
anything?
really, for example, this room, you see the bedroom, it's only 10 feet 6 inch wide. Making that smaller, really, it won't be. I talked with the real estate people too for the marketing of this unit. Already, and as you see on the on this analysis, the front unit, it's 1,186 square feet, and the rear unit, it's 1,078 square feet, which is the minimum from that square footage. If you deduct the stairways, everything, it's really very small units. And the size of the rooms, if I reduce that much to comply with this, 2 inch short, with it, the room, it won't be any more desirable or marketable in the today's market.
Okay.
So enclosed garage, when this applies only when I explained the setback, variance requested, and during the series of the meeting with the staff, it was suggested this way to go two separate, the detached units with the private garages, which it gives me this solution.
Oh, okay.
I don't have any more to
You don't
add.
have
If you
anything
have
else?
any question, I will.
You actually answered them while I interjected in your time, so.
Okay.
I would like to say I didn't receive any other letters or emails or anything from parties within 500 feet or anybody for that matter. And there's no one else here, so if you want to rebut anything, you can, but otherwise, if you're done, you're
There is
done.
no need to rebut anything.
Okay.
you.
Yeah, you've answered all my questions, so thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd like to end the public hearing. It is 3 minutes before 10, and thank you for coming.